All right, welcome to Financial Literacy Lecture 10.4. In your book, we're going to work our first problem on page 439. This section is about markup and markdown, and it's really about retail establishments, how to price goods. So section 10.4, markup and markdown. 10.4.1 is we're going to work some problems markup based on selling price. All right, so you will be given the selling price in the problem, and you'll want to figure out what's the most you can pay, all right, to get the markup based on the selling price. So markup, the definition of that, margin is probably the more common term used, by the way. At least when I was in business school, we used the term margin. The amount added to the cost of goods to cover all expenses and add a profit. Hopefully you're adding a profit, and hopefully you're covering all expenses. Sometimes you sell things at a loss, but we're going to assume that we're trying to make a profit. All right, so on page 439, we're going to do example A. So it says a wholesaler wants to sell a drill to retailers for $45 and earn a markup of 20% on the selling price. What's the most the wholesaler can pay a drill manufacturer to get the desired markup? All right, so you start with the selling price, which is $45, and then we subtract 20% of this. So subtract 45 times 0.2. So the most that they could pay is $36. All right, so that 0.2 is our markup. All right, so common sense says you're going to have to pay less than what you sell it for. All right, so since it's based on selling price, it's the 20% is taken of the selling price. All right, let's look at example B right underneath. And that says Marion Cassidy, a jeweler, wants to set a price of $600 for a bracelet. Markup he wants is 60% of the selling price. What is the most that he can pay for the bracelet? All right, so just like in the previous example, we would take that $600 and then subtract 60% of that. So minus 600 times 0.6. And that is $240. All right, so pause the video if you need to, and we will move on. All right, we are still in your notes on section 10.4.1. And the next couple of problems, we're going to use cost as a percent of selling price. All right, so that's going to be 100% minus the markup rate. All right, 100% is going to be, so if the markup, for example, the markup rate is 40%, it would be 1 minus 0.4. Okay, so we'll express it as a decimal, so 100% is 1. All right, 40% would be 0.4. And if you're asked to get the selling price, so you don't have to write those numbers, that 1 minus 0.4 down. That was just me describing what we would be doing. And then the selling price, which the problems are going to ask you to do, you would take the cost and divide that by the cost as a percent of selling price. So it's going to be 1 minus the markup rate. All right, so let's look at example C on page 440. Right, so Example C says the cost of a half ounce of perfume is $18. The markup is 60% of the selling price. What is the selling price? All right, so you're going to take the cost, $18, and divide that by 1 minus the markup rate. Well, the markup rate is 60%, so 1 minus 0.6. So that's going to be 18 over 0.4, which is $45. All right, let's do one more like that. So example D, right underneath. So I'm doing a lot of the examples on this one, since this section seems to give people a little bit of trouble. A bird bath costs $20.30. A retailer wants a markup of 42%. What's the selling price of the bird bath? All right, so again, it's the cost, which was $20.30, divided by 1 minus the markup rate, so 1 minus 0.42. So that's going to be 2030 over 0.58, and that's a selling price of $35. Now, if you come up with a selling price less than the cost, you know you did something wrong. Okay, so use a little bit of common sense here. Okay, pause if you need to, and we'll move on to the next section. All right, 10.4.2 is markup based on cost. All right, so we're going to talk about the rate of markup. So I'll abbreviate that ROM. All right, from now on. But the rate of markup is equal to the markup, okay, the dollar amount of the markup, divided by the cost times 100. All right, as simple as that. So let's look at example E on page 440. Okay, that says the cost of a comb is 80 cents. Retailer wants to sell the comb for $1.28. What's the rate of markup that the seller will have to use? Okay, so the markup is $1.28, the selling price, minus the cost, 80 cents. We divide that by the cost because our markup is based on cost. You're going to divide by the cost, not the selling price. All right, and that is a 60% markup. In retail, a lot of times markup is 100%, so that's a little bit on the low side probably for a comb. And then example F, all right, so right underneath, it says a grocer pays $2.50 for a half gallon of milk, wants to sell the milk for $2.70. What is the milk's rate of markup on cost? All right, so the markup amount is 20 cents, 270 minus 250. We're basing it on the cost of 250, so that goes in the denominator, times 100, and that is 8%. Okay, so pause the video if you need to, and I have one more little section called Markdown. Okay, so a couple of vocabs here. Markdown is equal to the rate of markdown So that'll just be a decimal times the marked price. And then the selling price is equal to the marked price minus the markdown. All right, let's look at example G. And this is on page 441. All right, that says that a man's suit with a marked price of $270 being offered at a 20% discount. What is the selling price of the suit? Well, a 20% discount, you're going to take the original price of $270. All right, don't need that parentheses, minus the markdown. So 270 times 0.2, which is 20%. Right, and that is $216. So that's your 20% sale. And example H right underneath. So at the end of the selling season, a flat of flowers is marked at $12.50, a discount of 50%. What is the selling price of the flat? Well, you could probably do it in your head, since 50% would be half. All right, but it's $12.50. That's the original price minus $12.50 times 0.5, which is your 50% number, and that would be $6.25%. So there's your half off. All right, so that does it for section 10.4. The homework from this section, page 442, you can do 9 through 13 odd, 14 through 17, you do all of those, 19, 21, 23 through 25, that would be all of those, and then also number 27. Okay, that is a total of 13 problems. All right, that'll do it for section 10.4, and I will talk to you next video.